Hello, my name is Professor Dennis Falcon. Welcome to My Poli Sci Lab. Today we're going to be talking about political parties, and I have as my guest today special student guest Angelique Ruddle, going to join us for our discussion today. Hopefully give us some student insight. We're also joined by Professors Brian Reese and Victor Obasohan. And let's get right to the first question. Why are political parties so important within the scope of the American political landscape?
Well, political parties are not constitutionally provided for. We do know today that they are major vehicles for electoral competition. So, and that's why they're important. And for any political actor who hopes to win an electoral office, they are better off joining a political party.
I think they also help out with defining issues that are important to Americans. You know, a lot of Americans don't have time to think through all the issues critically, so political parties help play a very important public policy role. They define different perspectives throughout the United States. So there are several practical roles that they play.
I'll definitely agree with that. I like the way Professor Obasohan used them, consider them a vehicle. I think that it's a good way to get people's voices heard, and it's a good way to get more issues out there that need to be addressed. It's just kind of something out there that is helping us create a better democracy in general. Yeah,
well, so far we're working on a definition that includes some of the concepts that most textbooks cover in political science classes. The idea as a vehicle, we could use the term linkage institution. It connects people to the electoral process, and of course the point of winning elections. Now in that regard, let's do a little comparison contrast to clarify the role of, let's say, political parties and interest groups, because that often comes up in the classroom. Anybody want to touch on that? What's the major difference between an interest group and a political party?
Yeah, I get a lot of confusion over that with students. They tend to lump them together. The general distinction I draw for students is that interest groups are very narrow. They aggregate small groups of people around specific issues. Political parties are more about getting big groups of people together around more general issues. Also, political parties are, like Professor Obasohan was saying already, they're all about getting people into office. And interest groups often play a role of trying to influence people that are already in office.
I think Professor Reese, captures it, accurately. Interest groups, narrow-minded and focused, is singular in terms of their pursuit, while political parties generally, tend to be big tents to capture a political office, essentially. That's the major difference.
Professor Obasohan and Angelique, I get the impression sometimes that a lot of people are very dissatisfied with the two political parties in the United States, and despite turnout being what it is in different elections, between elections and maybe even during election cycles, it seems that there's a true love-hate relationship between some people in the United States and the political party system. Like, they say that there's no real choice, they're not really that different, and nothing's going to change regardless of who's in power. Is there any credence to those kinds of sentiments and ideas among the population? What do you say about that?
Well, there is some truth to it, because, when you look at Democrats and Republicans in terms of the big issues and what they vote for, we'll take one example like the Iraq War. Democrats voted for it, Republicans voted for it. What is the difference?
Well, eventually they had different viewpoints on it.
But they all went to war. They voted to go to war. One would have thought, that the Liberal Party, represented by the Democrats, would have been able to question this much more forcefully, instead of just, said, okay, we're going.
But there's just a lot more to take into perspective than just saying, okay, we're going to war or not. There was a lot of influences behind that. A lot of consideration was taken. But also then you also have the dissenters, the people who believe that we shouldn't go to war, but that's not just based on which party you're related to or affiliated with. I think that a lot of people aren't just one party. They're independent voters, issue voters. I think that's what makes up a majority of the population right now. And I think that there is definitely, as you put it, credence to a lot of these love-hate relationships. I think that, most people are choosing between what they say is the less of two evils when they're voting for the president. Really, you can't give too much thought, sadly, to that third party, you know, the Ross Perot, the Ralph Nader, because they have a they're less likely to win than giving your vote to one of the two big candidates.
You know, and that makes me want to ask you guys something more about just partisanship in general, like this loyalty, or this idea that the parties, on the one hand, we see them as trying to appeal to a general audience to get as many votes as possible to win.
Right.
But we're seeing something play out right now in American politics. We have a Democratic majority in the House and the Senate, a sizable majority, and we have an African-American Democrat in the White House for the first time in history. Some people would say they have an electoral mandate to basically lead the country after 8 years of Republican rule in the Bush administration. But what we're seeing now with the current, let's say, bailout or a stimulus package being stalled out on partisan lines, where the Democratic Party and the president can't get any Republicans whatsoever to basically sign on to the package as it works its way through Congress. That looks like the same old thing that we've had for years and years, where partisanship alone, and not ideas, not interest groups, is basically going to be the determining factor.
Well, you know, I agree with you that right now the economic discussion, the bailout discussion, is breaking down along hard party lines. And Barack Obama certainly was elected with some language about post-partisanship and getting more towards practical solutions. He was famous for saying, you know, whatever party has the best ideas, those are the ideas we're going to go with. But, you know, there are real differences between the two parties on this economic issue. Democrats believe that the government should play a bigger role in the marketplace, especially during a crisis, than Republicans do. Republicans believe that government should play a smaller role, that you should let failing businesses fail. You know, that's a bit of an oversimplification, but it points to real differences between the parties. I don't know that this is just fueled by, I'm a Democrat, therefore I'm going to vote against the Republicans. I think it's, I think to a certain extent, this is idea-based.
Well, look, I strongly disagree with that. Republicans have no more ideas. You know, this is a failed party. You know, I mean, they are bankrupt, you know, in terms of ideas. You know, if you look at the Republicans that are left, you know, they are from the red states. You know, I mean, red states. You know, that's all they are saying. I mean, they voted for the $700 billion under Bush. They voted for that. This is a party that is supposed to be fiscally responsible. They voted for $700 billion. They didn't let Wall Street fail. Now when it came to Obama, helping the middle class, you know, and the lower class, now they found their voices.
I'm going to throw this to Angelique first, because again, we target students with this, with these discussions, because obviously it's for educational purposes. So. But let's make it real for them, because, you know, they're all potential consumers and voters and participants in the political process. So, like, Angelique, from your point of view, what would students need to know more about the political parties and how they operate in our system, so that they can be good consumers and participants in the future as they work between these issues and, for themselves?
Well, I think the first thing is that you really need to have a mind of your own. You can't just go to your parents and say, what do you believe, and kind of take that in. Sure, take that into perspective. But you need to go out and, I mean, the internet's right at your fingertips. Everyone's using it. You can always find, you know, any platform of the political parties.
Your congressperson's MySpace page?
Your congressperson's MySpace page, apparently. But really, go out and look for yourself. Find out what's the new, you know, issue that's going on. Check your newspapers. Really, it's quite easy. So just go out there and don't make it seem like a chore. It's not something you have to do. It's something you should be doing.
Well, I will recommend this, you know, to students: register, vote. End of story.
Professor Reese.
I think I'd echo what Angelique said. Look at both parties and some of the third parties. Look at what they believe in, and make up your own mind. Which one do you think makes most sense to you in terms of where the United States should go?
You know, she actually made a good point, and we'll close on a couple of quick notes. Most people do choose their partisanship and their political party preference based on the partisanship of their parents. That continues to hold true. So asking people to think for themselves seems to still be a tall order in our society. But, you know, we could always strive for better. So obviously political parties play an essential role, an important role in our political process. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be part of the process, whether we love them or hate them. So all we can recommend is that you learn as much as possible and have fun while you're doing it. Now go hit the books.